It was late, well past 2 in the morning, and I was walking home alone after a long night shift. The city streets were deserted. The air was cold and heavy. I had that feeling you get when you know you're the only person awake for miles. As I rounded a corner onto a quieter street, I saw a figure ahead. He was tall and thin, dressed in what looked like a cheap vintage suit. He was standing under a flickering yellow street lamp, facing away from me. I thought nothing of it at first. Maybe he was waiting for a cab. But as I drew closer, I noticed something strange. He wasn't moving, and he wasn't holding a phone. When I was about 50 yards away, I heard a sound, a soft, rhythmic shuffling. I stopped and stared. The man had turned around and he was facing me now. He wasn't walking. He was dancing. It wasn't a normal dance. It was a slow, theatrical, almost exaggerated waltz, like a mime practicing a grotesque routine. Every movement was jerky and unsettlingly deliberate. And then I saw his face. He had unnaturally wide, unblinking eyes and a smile that stretched his mouth from ear to ear. It wasn't a smile of kindness or happiness. It was fixed, joyous, and utterly inhuman, like a mask of pure, ecstatic menace. It made my stomach twist. I tried to cross the street, hoping to avoid him, but as soon as I changed direction, he changed too. He matched my movement, still dancing, never breaking that horrific smile, always closing the gap between us. Panic began to set in. I started walking faster, and the man's dance became faster, more desperate, his feet shuffling with a quick, unnatural scrape on the pavement. I was hyperventilating, trying to convince myself this was a prank, a drug user, anything but what my mind was screaming. Then, just as I was about to break into a sprint, the smiling man stopped dancing. Completely. He dropped his hands, and that wide, hideous smile never left his face. But now he was moving toward me with an impossible speed. Not running, not walking, but gliding, a relentless, terrifying glide. His feet barely lifted from the ground, yet he was covering ground too fast. I turned and ran like my life depended on it, not looking back until I reached the entrance to a dark apartment building and threw myself inside. I pressed my back against the wall, listening to the pounding of my own heart, and peered out into the street. The smiling man was there, standing directly across from me. He didn't move. He didn't look angry or frustrated or even predatory. He just stood there, perfectly still, his eyes wide, his smile burning into the darkness. We stood like that for what felt like an eternity. Then, he did something even more terrifying than the chase. He let out a small, almost joyful chuckle, turned slowly, and without another look, he danced away and disappeared into the night. I never stayed out late again, and every time I smile, I check my face in the mirror, just to make sure it's my own.
The road is my home now. Always dark, always raining, though I never feel the cold anymore. It's been decades since the accident, since I first stood here, waiting for the one car that will stop. It's always the same moment, the same stretch of highway, the familiar chilling drop of the mountain road. I see the headlights now. Faint at first, then growing, cutting through the thick, wet air, a new face. They always slow down. Curiosity, kindness, or maybe a strange compulsion they can't name. They see the young woman in the tattered white dress, drenched, alone. They pity me. The car pulls over. The electric whir of the passenger window coming down. A kind voice asks, "Are you all right? Where are you headed?" I slide into the passenger seat. The interior is warm, smelling of stale coffee and leather, a fleeting comfort. The driver is usually a man tired, heading home late. He avoids my eyes in the rearview mirror. We drive in silence. I watch the endless blur of trees and guardrails. He tries to make conversation. Terrible night for a breakdown. Or, you look like you've seen a ghost. He doesn't know the irony. Then I speak. My voice is thin, like wind over a cracked window pane. You're getting close now. The curve is just ahead. He frowns, confused. Close to where, he asks. I haven't told you my destination. It's not your destination I'm worried about. I whisper. It's the one I couldn't reach. I start to describe the curve, the tight left turn, the sudden drop, the black ice that night. I tell him about the loss of control, the screech of the tires, the final sickening impact against the old oak tree. The driver is gripping the wheel tightly now. His knuckles are white. He realizes I know too much about this road. As we approach the exact spot, the air in the car changes. The warm, stale scent vanishes, replaced by the damp smell of earth and rain. The radio begins to crackle violently, and the car lights flicker. He slams on the brakes, terrified. "Who are you?" He finally manages to ask, his voice shaking. I turn my head slowly toward him. My eyes are empty, reflecting nothing but the faint gleam of the dashboard lights. "I am the warning," I say. "This is where I died. This is where you need to be careful." The driver stares at me, his mouth agape. The old white dress I wear is suddenly less like fabric and more like mist. The leather seat beneath me is dry, as if I brought no rain into the car at all. Then, in the space of a single breath, I am gone. Vanished. He speeds away, frantic, checking the empty passenger seat, swearing he's lost his mind. But when he gets home, he finds a single cold, wet patch on his leather seat, a patch he can never quite dry. And in the spot where I vanished, a small, faded photograph. A woman from another time. I am back on the roadside before his car is out of sight. I am the eternal echo of a moment, a tragic memory playing on an endless loop, and I wait. I wait for the next kind stranger, the next pair of unsuspecting headlights, ready to deliver my message one more time. Be careful on the curve. Be careful on the curve. Always.
Everyone knows the spot. That dark, winding road just outside of town, Lover's Lane. It's the perfect place for teenagers to disappear for a few hours, shielded by thick trees and the comfortable, isolating dark. But tonight, the darkness wasn't comfortable. Tonight, it was hiding something. Mark and Sarah were parked deep in the shadows. The atmosphere was intimate, quiet, broken only by the soft hum of the radio. Then, the music cut out, replaced by the sterile, urgent voice of a local newsreader. Authorities are warning residents to stay indoors after a dangerous inmate escaped from the state asylum late this evening. The suspect is described as a large male, mentally unstable, and is recognizable by a distinctive prosthetic. Reports indicate he is missing his right hand, which has been replaced by a large, sharpened metal hook. Residents are advised to lock all doors and report any sightings immediately. The news bulletin ended, and the silence in the car was suddenly heavy, oppressive. Sarah gripped Mark's arm, her voice tight with panic. "Mark, we have to go." "Now." "The asylum is only a few miles from here." Mark, being the typical skeptical teenager, rolled his eyes. "Come on, Sarah. That story is ancient. It's just an old scare tactic to keep kids from parking out here. Relax." He tried to kiss her, but she pulled away, her eyes darting nervously toward the inky blackness of the woods. "No, I'm serious. I'm hearing things," she insisted, her breathing ragged. Just as Mark was about to dismiss her again, a sound cut through the quiet. It was sharp, distinct, and sickeningly metallic, a long, drawn-out screech of metal against metal, coming from directly outside the passenger door. Every muscle in their bodies went rigid. They stared into the gloom, too terrified to speak or even move. Was it a branch? A prank? The sound of a metal hook dragging slowly along the side of the car, looking for purchase? Mark didn't wait to find out. He threw the car into drive, tires spitting gravel as he accelerated wildly out of the lane. They didn't stop speeding until they were back in the city lights. They pulled up to Sarah's house, both shaking. Sarah collapsed into Mark's arms, sobbing in relief. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I knew we had to leave." Mark, still trying to sound brave, hugged her tight. "See? I told you it was nothing. Just a branch. We're fine." He walked her to her front door, pulling his jacket around her shoulders. She kissed him goodnight and went inside, finally safe. Mark turned to walk back to his car. That's when he saw it. Hanging from the passenger side door handle, swinging gently in the faint breeze, was a large, gleaming, bloody metal hook. Everyone streams late at night, but last night was different. I was chatting with my usual night owl crowd, doing a Q&A, and everything was normal. But then, the screen flickered. A violent digital shudder like my phone was trying to reboot itself. The comments section exploded with panic. "Did you see that? Shadow, behind you!" I laughed it off, told them my Wi-Fi was probably having a moment. I was about to tap the screen to check the connection when the phone took control. The camera automatically flipped to the rear-facing view, showing a wide shot of my room, but the image was wrong. It was drenched in a grainy, sinister red filter, like something out of a cursed horror game. I couldn't flip the camera back. I couldn't end the stream. I was live, and I couldn't stop broadcasting. I started to get scared. I looked around the room but saw nothing out of the ordinary. The comments, though, they kept coming. "It's getting closer. Don't turn around. It's in the window reflection." I looked down at the phone screen, at the forced, distorted view of my room. It was then that I saw it, a dark, blurred shape in the reflection of the glass behind me. It was too tall, too thin, and it was moving. It wasn't visible in the real world. Only the phone's cursed broadcast could capture it. The sound of my own voice was now trapped in the phone's speaker, a terrified, muffled gasp. I watched the entity on the screen glide silently, relentlessly toward the back of my head. I wanted to move, to turn, but I was paralyzed, forced to watch my own impending doom through a cracked digital lens. The last thing I saw was its face filling the frame on my screen, a swirl of corrupted pixels and jagged static, just before the broadcast completely fractured. And my phone died. It wasn't a battery issue. The screen has never turned on since, but I know that thing is still inside the glass, waiting for the next user to go live.